Hi all, my name is Kishore Shankar Narayan and I welcome you again to this session with Alma Mater and AMSPARKS. So today we are going to discuss about the API and with data science, how it is essentials within the business element. That is the first part. Let's cover it today. And from there, right, we will take you through some of the practical examples and see how things work. First, let's understand what API is all about and why there is so much of a necessity around it and how it actually enhances the entire user experience. Anybody. Meanwhile, like you can, as you can see on the screen, these are all the different social media pages where you can actually contact us. Uh, Feel free to just get back to us anytime you want. And don't forget to download the app that we have to get more and more experience of your education. Any kind of courses that we are offering, you should be able to take it there, not only the data science part. Right, websites as usual, amsparks.com and almamater.co.in are the two websites that we are into. So let's begin the session today. The first part that we are going to talk about is the API and data science essentials. So by this end of the sessions today, you will be able to describe the core feature and function and the benefits of API. So let's begin now with API interface. First, that we are going to think that we are going to discuss is like we'll be introducing you to the API technology. There will be some API components that we are going to discuss, API security part, and if we need to get into the technicalities of designing an API and all, we will cover it in the next part for all those people who are interested in designing APIs and implementing APIs. And finally, there will be assessments for to checking out. So as of today, the first section of this, we will cover till the API security part for your better understanding. And let's, from the perspective of if you want to become a data scientist or in data analytics, where you have to pull in data, what are the necessary things? Let's understand the background first, and from there we will go ahead. So let's do understand what is an API, and let's see some examples and the benefits of API. So you might have come across one website which says that like, okay, come and select any of the flights that you want, right? Any airlines that you want to cover, right? You want to book ticket, you want to book the cheapest air ticket, but how does one website, one single website know which airline offers the cheapest flight tickets? That is possible through API. Now, and you might also come across like, okay, within one single application that you're working on, right, you're able to share it on different devices or different logins at the same time. How is that possible? That is again possible through the APIs. Now, the main reason is the APIs, right, actually make actions like this possible by delivering data requests and returning the responses in the background and enabling a fast and smooth user experience. So the whole idea is the user experience has to be pretty smooth. So whether you're using a single application or you're using a website, every user, the more comfortable the user is, the better it becomes, and better the experience, the exposure becomes better, and then the revisiting of the same client becomes a used case scenario for everybody. We know that. So let's understand what is an API first. So let's say you land up in a restaurant, right? You are the customer. What happens? There is a waiter who comes up first, right? And he takes the order. And once he takes the order, he goes to the chef. He comes back and he delivers you the food. This is the basic process that happens. That is. So API acts as that messenger. So the waiter you are seeing, right, is the right API. Is an API. And what happens from the client, from you, it goes to the chef, right? And the waiter goes to the chef, who is the server or the other setup where you want to pull the data from. So the other, it might be one software to the other software, one company to the other company, customer to the client. So when this connectivity happens, right, it becomes easier. All the experience becomes easier. So API actually acts as that waiter who will take the order from you, right, and go to the concerned chef, order it, and bring back whatever the chef has prepared and deliver it to you. So from point A to point B, right, the messenger, right, acts. So what you're going to do is you're going to request, and the API is going to take your request, go, right, and pull the response and give it back to you. So in simple terms, the role of an API is to enable connectivity between devices, applications, and systems. So by acting as the go between carrying requests and response back and forth. So what happens is, right, this responses and the request keeps happening all the time. So it will keep on shuttling between the customer and the right main server. So from one application to the other application, one device to the other device, from mobile to you want have all the right devices being connected. API makes it possible. Right now, in simple terms, if you see, right, you have the API client, the application a client, and then like you send the request, it goes to the server where the data is stored, it comes back, and the server gives the response, and the API comes and delivers it back to you as the response. So as you know, it's application programming interface, as the name suggests, right? That's what exactly the API does. So it acts as an interface between two things. So an application program interface that provides any developer or any data scientist with whatever the programmatic access is required, or to any, like let's say this server is a proprietary software application, and what we are going to do, so from here you want some data to come to you, right? You will use API, right, to interact. So when this interaction is taken care by API. So there is one application, for example, or one website, right, which has to connect, right, to different applications. Or let's say one of the best examples can be like, let's say when you're uh, booking a cab, Ola or Uber, they are connected probably with Google. So what happens is the integration between Google and the cab booking application is through API, and you're able to get it to the next level. So here, the key components that you need to know is there is a request, there is a response, there is a resource, and there is an endpoint which is there. And for all this, there are some technical documentations that are done that how this process happens. One of the main reason all this process needs to be taken care very diligently is because this data which gets from one section to the other section, right, sometimes can hold some real sensitive data. So that needs to be taken care of. Now, so what happens with the components, right? That's what we will be understanding, right? And when it comes to, there are two different sections that we need to really focus on whenever we are working on APIs, right? One is what are the specifications which are there and what are the different documentations which are available. We need to understand those things. A lot of things might be common documentations, but then there are some specifications that we need to be really be clear on. And security is one thing that we need to focus on whenever we are working on any APIs, any company, because you are going to interact with a totally different software, and security should be one of your primary things, and you should not be using these APIs to misuse any factor. So you need to be very clear and understanding. So and if you're going to with the APIs, if you're going to work on an application, or if you're as a data scientist, if you're going to develop a dashboard which interacts with the API and it provides certain results, you need to be clear with some the documentations that are necessary, and you need to be very specific about how this interaction is going to happen whenever this things are right. So how it links with other APIs, what are the expected results when you're using that particular API, all this needs to be taken care when it comes to API specifications. And it all the specification includes documentations. Now in documentation, it gives you the descriptions of the API, and it gives the details of the endpoints, object, and methods that are used. And after we do this, so we also need to understand there has to be a use case scenario that need to work on. So there will be an example request, and then there will be an example response that we will be seeing at the end, right, how this works and what exactly the API starts or gets developed on, that we will be working on. So there will be endpoints that we need to understand how the URL, when you are going to use the URL, how the URL are used to send requests to different companies or different applications, and from there how all the results are put, what are the different components that we need to and this URL we will understand it by the fact of each section how it looks like, right? What are the formats? For example, if you're going to use the HTTP method, which is one of the methods for pulling in APIs, I mean, creating APIs and pulling in data, right? This is how the HTTP link usually looks like. So it begins with your website address, and from there you request the API, and then your a path to the endpoint which comes in, and then all the parameters that you're looking for within a website, that becomes one of the main things whenever you're for HTTP, right? There are a few things that you use, right? Like for example, when you're talking about HTTP method, you can say, okay, get me this, or post this, or put this. So this is the URL. You'll use this method. You'll start with get, post, put, or delete, or patch, whatever you want to do with that particular data. and cover it up with the URL, right? And complete it with the URL. So that's it. So let's see how it works. So your first part, right, the URL is the HTTP method that you're going to use. So let's say get or push or whatever you want to do, you will put it here. And then like this, the website address that comes through. For example, if you're going to write call in API of an education site, so you will say the educationsite.com, which is the website address, and the API part will be from where you're requesting the data. For example, if you're going to check a particular website and say that, okay, I want a particular data from that, or you want to pull in a table from that particular web page, right? You will mention, but before that, you will have to have the access. So you will have to get the API key, right? We will shortly talk about the API key also. And from there, you will go and find out what exactly. So education site will have multiple, for example, college names, and right. So you will say that, okay, bring me the college names. And then within the college name, I want the contact person's name, contact number, and the location. So these are the parameters. So if you see, the first part is the request part, which is right of the get part, the HTTP section. The second part is of accessing the API of the website. The third part is the path of the URL, right? Is the path, that third part. And the fourth part will be your parameters that you're going to set. So reading this, right, a lot of times what happens is when you're right putting in the URL, you need to be right very clear. So you need to know where exactly you're going. So if, as long as like you're giving this detail correctly on your URL, it should be able to pull in the data. So this is the first part. Whenever you're asking some site or some setup to bring in you the data, right? I hope this first part is covered. And the next part is what happens is like once it goes. So if you see, so this is the response. So let's this section. So first you have requested with the URL, it goes to the server. Now the response part comes in. Now when it comes to the response part, right, it will come back with one, it will give you a number, 3-digit number. So any number that starts with 1, right, it might be 101, 102, 103. These are all the informational setups for HTTP codes. Any number that starts with 2, right, this will be the success part. So like let's say you have successfully completed. So if your response is starts from 2, if the response starts from 3, right, it goes on to the redirection. So sometimes like you get too many redirections, right, then it becomes difficult. So time factor, all this comes in the picture. So the 4, anything that starts from 4, it will be based on the client error. That so if you get something like 404, which is the one of the most common thing, is one of the errors of 404, right? And then like you have, if there is a server error, the number will start with 5. So let's see these numbers, how this works. So let's say you send the request using the URL, you have sent the request and the server comes back, I mean the API comes back with a response, and the response code is saying 200. So that means like your URL was successfully created, right, received, and then like you have got the details. Same way, right, if your URL is going to say something like, a lot of times like you will have this 404 error, right? This 404 error is primarily because your link is not correct or the URL was not found. So a lot of times when you're even typing your regular website address, you get something like a 404 error, and that is this error. So from now onwards, when you see your website showing you 404 error, all you need to do is you need to recheck your URL, whether the URL is correct or not. Or if that is correct, if your URL is correct, the person who is holding the website or thing, they need to fix that error, right? As it is not getting to that particular page where you're showing. This is fixing. And then like you have, right, the server errors, which will be, right, the internal server error is one of the most common thing when it comes to server error. Others, gateway timeout 504 works the next. Yeah, everything else is like based on case to case it comes in. So right from, right, these informational code till the server error codes, right? If you know this particular page, whenever you see any kind of error, you can just, right, probably put it in Google and say that what does this error mean? It will exactly give you the details of what are this. Say, so this is one part that you need to be clear on. Now, the most important part when it comes to API is the security. Now, for API security, we need to understand something called as the encryption. And you need to understand something about the certificate authorities who are there, and there is a basic understanding that is required of authentication versus the authorization. What is the difference between both of them? And you will understand. So let's go to the one of the most important thing when it comes to API is the API security, right? And how the encryption actually happens. So the reason we need to have the security is like APIs have the capacity to handle enormous amount of sensitive data, right? All the kind of financial data that is required or any transactional records that needs to be carried. So API actually carries a lot of sensitive information. But then like there would be definitely somebody who would be wanting to snoop around and find things up. But then it needs to be secured. So that is one thing that we need to be focused on. So that is for any company or any application, any data scientist, the main concern for is the data providers who are there, right? How they will ensure that the data that you are getting is exactly, it's a non-manipulated data, and it is a secure data. That is more important. Sometimes when you sign in from your, let's say, Google application, or you say there is a website, it says that sign in with your Google ID, sign in with your Facebook ID or any ID. What happens is that is the place like API is being used. So that website has to have that security feature completely, and the same way, right? The end-to-end encryption has to happen between these two setups, right? Now, all the data that is sent and received has to be encrypted. Now, how this encryption starts is, let's say you are one party, and let's say, right, Facebook is another party. All right. So first, both of you, right, you and Facebook have to have an agreement, right? Because you have never met Facebook, you know only through the application. Mark Zuckerberg might be doing something, you might want to come, right, talk to him in person, but then like he might be doing something, you don't know him, how he looks, what he does and all. There are so many companies that you don't know, right? right? How are you going to communicate? They don't know you, you don't know them, right? You will have to agree with some kind of common setup, which is called as the key, right? Now, this key is the factor. So when you are pulling in data, right, from a third party software, right, they will have a key, you will have a key. So that there will be one common key, and from there the story will begin, or the encryption story. So this all started in right 1976, where right, this combination of color, it started with colors. So let's say there are these two basic colors which are there. This encryption always started that how to, right, get things done. Now, so you have to understand colors first. So what happens when you have two different colors and you want a third color? All you can do is you can mix it and get the third color, correct? And this becomes one. So this is possible with anything, any two colors you mix and you can get the third color. But is it possible to find out the third color which you have if you want to break it down and bring it back to those two colors exactly the same way? That is not possible, right? That is not the way the right, the colors will work. You won't be able to get the exact color that brought you, right, the previous ones. So this, you won't be able to bring it to this level again. So what you do is, this is the basis, this is the right basis for creating a lock and the key. So it's also called as the one-way function. That means it's easy in one direction, but it is difficult in others. So now currently, right, there is the least amount of possibility that you can bring back the same exact two colors which you brought together to create a third color. So because this is, it works, the end-to-end encryption has a setup, how it operates. So let's say there are three parties. One is A, one is B, right? And there is a third party. Now this third party is the one who is probably, right, is possibly the right hacker, or you can talk about this possibly somebody who is snooping around, right, who is actually seeing what is happening. So what happens in that, like how A and B will communicate and come up with something, right, which C is seeing but not able to understand, or C is not able to see what happens, what it does. So let's the first thing that they have to come up, A and B has to come up with a color, right, that day. So here the thought process is A and B should have a color which C won't be able to see or understand, and which is only possible for A and B, not for C. So the first thing is they come up with a key which like one single color. Let's take this as the yellow color that it is used here, and this is shared publicly, right? Okay, this is the key, this is the key. And so because these two are shared publicly, C obviously will be able to see A and B's color, right? The next thing is A decides one color which he does not share with B, and B comes up with one color which B does not share with A. So C definitely would not know because B has not shared with anybody and A has not shared with anybody. So they will not know what anybody who is seeing, they will not know. Now, what A and B they will do is they will add both these color together to make the third color. And once this third color is ready, all they are going to do is they are going to send it to each other. So when A sends it to B, what is happening? C actually sees that, oh yeah, this is the color that A has sent it to B. Same way, when B sends it to A, right? C also sees that color. So C knows that, okay, these two colors has been exchanged, right? So if C knows about this, C will be able to find and get clue what it is. But what has happened is, in this scenario, A has not shared this unique color, B has not shared this unique color. So what they are going to do is they are going to mix both of these colors with their unique colors. So let's say A is going to, the color that B send to A will mix it with his own color, which was unique, which he never shared. B will share it, B will add this color. So what both of them they are going to do is they are going to mix it, and by mixing those two colors, you will get the unique color that they want. So this is the most important factor, how end-to-end encryption works. So let me put it in numbers so you will understand it more clearly, right? So we have A, B, C. So let's say A and B has one. They have shared one, right? Publicly. So C also know there is one. Then what they do is A picks up color 2 or number 2. B picks up number 3, right? Which A does not know and B does not know number 2 is picked up by A. So C definitely would not know because there is nothing shared. So what both of them do is they add. So 1 is added to 2, it becomes 3. And 3 is added to 1, which becomes 4. So now what they are going to do is they are going to send each other their total. So what happens? C has 4, which he has seen from which B send it to A, and C has 3, which A send it to B. Now what they are going to do to come up with the unique encrypted number, they will add their own number. So when 4 plus 2 is added, it becomes 3, correct? And same way, when 3 plus 3 is added, it becomes 6. So both of them will have the unique 6th number as the encrypted number, which C will never come to know unless, right, A is given his unique color or unique number to C, or B has given his or her unique number to C. So unless the C gets this one of these color, he will never be able to arrive at this color. And this is what the end-to-end encryption happens. So nobody is able to get in between easily and get encrypted. I get the encrypted number or the color. I hope this explains you clearly on end-to-end encryption part. Now, to give this encryption, there are some certification authorities, and whereby the public keys are kept in digital certifications. Now, this digital certification, right, the digital certified ownership of the public key is with them, right? And the certification authorities are the trusted third party that issues these certificates. And there is this format called as X509, which is the standard for having this digital keys. That becomes very important. Some of the companies which are the certification authorities are VeriSign. So you will see that verified by VeriSign or Symantec or Equifax. These are used mostly in the banking and other security terms, where all these companies come in the picture as the certification authorities for certifying that your right keys are digitally safe and encrypted when you come to that. Here there are two parts that you need to understand. One is the authentication part and one is the authorization part. So when you're developing or when you're pulling in data as the data scientist, you need to know both of them. One, when you talk about authentication, it's the process of identifying an individual. And then you will have the username, you will have the password, fingerprint. So the first part is like when you plug in your username and password, or you use the fingerprint or the retina scan, it authenticates what you are. And this authentication factor can be single, right? Like sending in only login with your password, or it can be right multi. So you will have to put in right your password, and then there will be an OTP sent to you, or you will have to do a fingerprinting to authenticate that you are the right person to use this API. That is the first level. And then right, as a data scientist or a programmer, right, there will be some authorizations that will be needed. So now this is the process where the access is provided by to the computer system. So one computer is given the access by the other computer, right? And in between there will be this programmer or the data scientists who will, when they are pulling in this data or creating a set of data, right, that authorization will be needed. Same way, right, is for the data or the computer programs, whether it comes to hardware usage or software usage, authorization is needed. And in this, all the people and other computer systems are also involved. So this was all about right authorization, authentication, and the API basics. The first thing that you ever need to know about APIs. And why it is important is everybody knows, like all the time, like there is this virus attack that keeps on happening. There are worms, there are malwares, there are spywares, all this moving around all the time. This security protects them. The end-to-end encryption, the encryption part protects, right? It also protects from data theft and definitely from being hacked, denied of any service, right? Same way, right? It provides stability and reduction in any kind of crashes when you develop certain, right? A dashboard, for example, as a data scientist, you're creating a dashboard, right? If you have used all the secured measures properly, right? If you have done the authentication and authorizations properly, then your crashes will not always be there. And most importantly, it gives privacy, better privacy for this. Now, what we have covered so far is, right, encryption is the process of encoding and decoding information which is sent electronically. Both the parties, right, needs to keep a key to decipher the content and must swap their own keys to allow the correct decoding. And keys are obtained from well-known, registered and trusted CAs only, right? That's the certification authorities. And obviously authentications, the first part, as you know, are your password, where you can have single factor or the multiple factor, right? Username, password, fingerprinting, all this comes under authentication. And authorizations are allowed you to access the resources and the data. So this is the first part of the API which you need to know. So let's conclude this first part now and go ahead with the question answer session.